Hey everyone, Sean and Dave here from the Saturday Morning Cartoons podcast. We cannot start this episode. We can absolutely not start this episode without thanking the following people who went to our patreon.com and support the show. So thank you,
Bill Dixon,
Jonathan Renteria Elye,
Jack Connolly,
Alex Kazanis,
Derek Haynes,
Melanie Harker,
Dr. Jason Woods,
Allison Keene,
Battle Mat Fitness,
Westbourne East Bred,
John Richard Helter II,
Dave Trumbore III.
damn it, again, and the one and only Sean Paul Ellis. Hey, listeners out there, if you want to get on this list of super cool people, we'd love it if you'd head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. Remember, that's morning with a U, to see how you can support the podcast.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your support. And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Appropriating more Asian culture than Wes Anderson, I'll be your co-host, Dave Trumbore. Joining me as always, some people don't like him, but I think he's all might. It's Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, bud?
Oh my God, not only was that a reference, but that was also a pun as well. David, I'm doing well, buddy. How about yourself?
I'm on fire tonight. I'm feeling quirky. I'm feeling ready to go.
Woo!
Quirky. You ever feel
Wow,
quirky?
did we both woo at the same time?
We may have. I mean,
Nice.
We'll sync it up in the post, but yeah. 100%
Perfect.
woo. That's that DuckTales residuals coming in. DuckTales champion. Disney March Madness. How about
Yeah.
that? How you feel about that?
Ooh. I'm feeling pretty good about it,
Yeah?
but guess what? We're no longer in March anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm due from the future present.
We're in that weird gray area where it's not quite April, so it's just smarch.
Lousy smarch.
Lousy smarch. No, but we are in April, and Dave, what does April mean for us?
Spring flowers, chickadees,
Peeps.
definitely peeps in a microwave.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else. That's it.
There could be two very special things that we could be celebrating on the podcast this month.
Oh, really?
Well, one is it's another theme month that we're rolling into.
I can feel your disappointment through the video. One is, how about
two
that? I love
two is
theme
a
month,
milestone.
But I love theme months, right?
Yeah,
You
theme
know I
months are
love
great.
theme months because I inflict them upon you every chance I get.
Oh man, and guess what? I love alliteration, and so we managed to really knock this out of the park with Anime April.
How about that?
Pow, pow, pow.
We're changing things up a little bit this time around, though. It's going to be way more contemporary anime, so it's probably not stuff that you missed, unless you missed, the last 4 years of anime and massive titles. So yeah, we're going to revisit some other stuff. But hey, what's another milestone you're talking about?
The other milestone is that, guys, we're celebrating our 200th episode.
That's crazy.
Next week.
How about that?
200. That is crazy. And if you are listening and you're thinking to yourself, I wonder how we could get involved, and for some reason you don't follow us on any social media, which is totally...
But you listen to this show.
But you listen to this show, which is totally fine.
Sure.
If you're doing that, you're probably actually living your best life right now
best life
with
for you.
no social media whatsoever. But if you are thinking about contributing, guess what? You, the listener, you actually can call in and leave us a message to tell us why you love the show that we're going to talk about so much. But what is that show? We're going to tell you right now. It's Animaniacs.
How about that?
200th episode, and we are getting into Animaniacs, not only because we love it, but also Hulu loves it, and they're bringing it back on to Hulu later this year.
Yeah, not only the original is coming back, but I think they're
Right.
also making new episodes.
They
to air
are.
exclusively on Hulu. So that's pretty cool.
Correct.
Now,
So
we can't get your voices on that show, but you can get your voices on this show. So Sean's going to provide the call-in info for you, and we're also going to have that in the show notes afterwards.
Sure thing. And we will post this on social media. So if you need to go and just I don't remember what the number is, it's always going to be there for you. So if you want to call and tell us and leave us a message why you love Animaniacs so much, you can call 202-681-4406 and you can leave us a message. It's that simple. Just tell us who you are, where you're from, and why you love Animaniacs so much. We'll give you a hint. Keep it around 30, 45 seconds so we can include the entire message in the show. But that's it, guys. you can get involved in this. This is the first time we've ever done something like this. So we're looking towards you, yes, you, people who have been listening, to contribute to the show, because guess what? We're not going to watch all of Animaniacs between now and the time we record that episode, because that would be insane.
So call right now. Supplies are limited. Get them before they're gone.
Oh, that number again was 202-681-4406.
What else are they used to say? No cash on delivery. No
operators
CODs. Operators are standing by. No CODs. Shipping and handling may apply.
Perfect.
Hey, guess what? Just because we love you guys, free shipping and handling on your audio recording streamed over the internet.
We probably should say international rates do apply.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Whoops. Sorry, friends, our buddy in Russia.
Perfect.
Yeah. Hey, but before we get to 200, we got to go through 199 first.
Yeah, we got to do this. What are we talking about this week, Dave?
We're talking about a title that I always screw up, even though it's an English word. My Hero Academia. I always say Academia, and I'm trying real hard not to use that made-up word tonight.
Really?
Well, I don't know why I say Academia. I guess it just like has a better rhythm or something to it.
I mean, kind of in the context of the actual title of the show, but just, in terms of how words are used
Yeah,
and spelled.
in terms of how like words are pronounced. Yeah, it's wrong.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
Yeah. I think the macadamia screws me up.
Yeah, the macadamia.
I made up another word. Is it macadamia? Or
no,
are you doing an Animaniacs word? I'm so lost.
No. There was a Simpsons reference in there because Alex Kazanis had a friend of the show and guest when we talked about One Piece. Alex Kazanis had made a Twitter post about it's called My Hero Macadamia, which is a reference to something that Homer said in a Simpsons episode, and it's kind of carried with me. So guaranteed, I'm gonna slip and say that accidentally at some point tonight, or I'm just gonna go MHA.
That's probably for the best. I'll just say My Hero.
Right.
But Sean's My Hero, and he's going to walk us through the history of this show if you're not familiar with it.
Let's do it. My Hero Academia.
Nice.
Or, which it's originally titled Boku no Hero Academia, is a comedy adventure manga series written and illustrated by Kohei Horikoshi, appearing in Weekly Shonen Jump, and it's been there since July of 2014. The manga was adapted into an anime television series by Studio Bones, originally airing in Japan from April to June of 2016, followed by a second season from April to September of 2017. Season 3 of MHA will arrive Saturday, April 7th. Guys, that's like real close. That's probably from the time that this comes out. It's like less than a week.
5 days, yeah.
Yeah. So get ready and buckle up because this is going to be something you're going to want to watch. The first 6 episodes of MHA will simultaneously stream on the same day and date as the Japanese TV broadcast in simuldub.
Trademarked.
Trademarked.
Definitely glad I included that.
Yep. On Funimation, and it's subtitled simulcast on Hulu as well as also Crunchyroll, or you can check it out on Verve.
Yep.
All 25 episodes of MHA Season 3 will also stream in simuldub on Funimation now, and with also a subtitled simulcast, trademarked, in Hulu and Crunchyroll and Verve for you guys to stream.
Yeah.
As well as also, guess what? There's a movie which is titled My Hero Academia, the movie, dash the two heroes, with the tagline, Who is Your Hero? Which will be released this year, August 3rd. So you've got not only Season 3, but then before Season 4, you've got a movie to look forward to, which is exciting.
How about that?
Yeah.
Hey, people who just sat through the history and still have no clue what the fuck we're talking about, here's the synopsis for My Hero Academia. On an Earth-like world, I don't know why this isn't just Earth, where people with superpowers known as Quirks are the norm, Izuku Midoriya is a regular middle school student who has dreams of one day becoming a hero despite being bullied by his classmates for not having a quirk. After being the only one to try and save his childhood bully Katsuki from a villain, the world's greatest hero, All Might, bestows upon him his own quirk known as One for All. The story follows Izuku's entrance into UA High School, a school that cultivates the next generation of superheroes. So there you go. It's essentially Japanese anime superhero high school.
Yep.
100%. That's pretty much it. My Hero Academia kind of sums it up that way.
So I want to venture to say, Dave, this is interesting because you and I have watched this show.
Oh, yeah.
And we've also watched it to completion right now. We're in anticipation of Season 3. Weird emphasis to put on that specific word. But
That's my quirk.
I'll allow it.
That's my quirk.
Wait, hold on. Is that your quirk for
My
tonight?
quirk
Is
is putting
weird.
the wrong emphasis on parts of the word.
Yes.
The old dad joke, the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Ugh, this is gonna get real cringy.
Dad jokes. That's my cringe quirk. How did you know it's a cringe quirk?
Oh God.
Cringe.
If that is just the name of your superhero, it's just cringe.
I
That's
just walk
perfect.
around like I look like a normal guy. I just walk around saying things that make people like real uncomfortable. So I don't know if I'm a hero or a villain yet. It depends on the situation.
context.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, speaking of context, we should give you a little bit more for this show. This is not just some like random anime we're pulling out of our hats. This just kind of like swept through the recent Crunchyroll Anime Awards, pretty much bringing home like every major title. There are a couple of upsets here and there, but for the most part, this is like beloved, fan favorite, award-winning, very successful, something that's probably going to be around for years and years and years to come. But it's relatively new, so you still have time to get caught up on it, even before season 3 arrives and before the movie arrives later this year.
Right. And this is also fun because Dave and I are caught up on this,
Yeah.
and we have watched every episode up to this point. So we've got a lot to talk about tonight,
Yeah.
but we're not gonna get down into the weeds about everything, because that would take us probably a month to really dig into everything.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole.
Which I'm
guys,
sure
we
is
are
already out there.
we are
Damn it.
shutting this down, and we are starting an MHA only podcast.
We could,
for
if
you
I
guys.
could only say the title and the protagonist's name, it would be great.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
The bonus is that all of these main protagonists and all of these supporting characters that we have tonight, they all have superhero names. And so we will probably use the superhero names because they have been anglicized a little bit and they are slightly easier for us to digest and say. And we actually,
Yikes.
and mainly we don't really want to, I mean, these are somebody else's creations and they did a great job with them. And to say some of the actual Japanese names and have us butcher them is
Nobody wants
nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that.
I am probably just going to refer to them by whatever description comes to mind because honestly, I have a tough time keeping the names straight, and it's not because they're in Japanese. It's because they're not easily digestible, like Sean said, for the most part. Like with Izuku, they at least his nickname is Deku. That's easy. I can keep track of that. The main like adult hero is named All Might. Pretty easy to do that. Like that's fine. Beyond that, I'm a complete mess. I have a real tough time with these. Now, luckily, the first time we're introduced to any of these heroes or villains is in the very first theme song. They do a roll call, my friend.
Yeah.
Are you excited about that?
No, I am. I am excited because it's nice to have kind of that rolling, call out of all the different names. We've talked about this so many times. Is that, and this show is not exclusive. There is a enormous cast.
Oh yeah, it's huge
to have to get through, and to kind of have some of these people like quickly kind of called out so that you can identify who they are. Really, really, very, very super helpful.
The only problem is it's less of a roll call and more of just like a flash roll call because like each of them is like glimpsed on the screen for like a second. Their full name. It's like behind them, so you get like just like flashes of just like, okay, I don't know what the fuck, like who. What did I just watch? Who are these people? How do you say those names? If you watch it like frame by frame, it's great. But if you just watch it as a theme song, it just gives you a flavor, a taste, and just kind of like stamps those initial impressions into your mind. So when they show up later, they're at least nano recognizable.
Or if you want to be like us, you can just pull up a fan page or a Wikipedia page that does all of their names because, I mean, unless you are a super fan of this show, I mean, there are so many characters, and we'll talk about some of them tonight. If we don't get to your favorite, we apologize.
That's Sean's quirk.
That's is leaving stuff out.
Leaving out things that people love just to spite you. So if Sean and I leave out a specific hero or villain that you love, it's on purpose. And we chose it because that's Sean's quirk. No,
I don't know if I want to commit to this.
You don't want that quirk? Okay.
I don't know if I want this quirk.
Sean's quirk is being able to weasel out of whatever quirk I assign him.
Yes. All right, I'm cool with that one.
Okay, good.
That works out.
It's better than my cringe quirk.
I also feel like you're just gonna give me all these weird quirks for this entire show.
That was the point of like assuming one first, so I can get it out of the way.
Well, it's kind of funny because it really plays into your cringe-worthy ability in quirk.
Cringe.
Perfect. Nice. Awesome.
What do you think about this first theme song? Because unlike American or even just like Western Animated series, I love, love, love the fact that anime series tend to have multiple theme songs that reflect where the show is in its arc, right? So you can, if you just drop in on a theme song and you haven't caught up with the show in a while, you'll be like, oh, this is after that first arc, or oh, this is stuff I haven't seen yet. So it's used as like a timekeeper, right? You can tell where you are in the series of a certain episode by watching that theme song.
No, I love these anime theme songs. We had a fan email come in from William on Twitter at WWSinclairWW,
Yeah, yeah.
who had actually posed that question about, do you feel that, the 80s and 90s theme music that we had, looking at and contrasting it to these anime theme songs, do you feel that it's good? And, we just spent an entire month with some very noteworthy theme songs from Disney that were aired in the United States.
Yeah.
And I love those, but I really do enjoy the foreshadowing and sort of the large roll call that sometimes they'll go through with all these specific characters. And so I love this for the fact that you get to see within this first arc, they kind of hint at where the main battle is going to be.
Right.
And so
the conflicts and the character interactions, and
and you get a little bit of the emotional state of Deku, of kind of just this pondering, this sort of longing to be kind of bigger and better than what he currently is right now, and he idolizes this hero that we see in these, that's featured very prominently being All Might in these first two theme songs.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to kind of see what that transition is, because by the end of the theme song, he has begun to kind of take on that role of being a hero himself. And so you begin to see the first part of his hero's journey. And all of this is pretty much done with, I'm assuming this is the Asian version of All American Rejects that kind of puts together this theme song.
Remember these? I apologize. I don't have the titles or the bands in front of me, but they are like really popular as far as just like it's specifically for these theme songs. Now, how much they're popular in Japan versus how popular they are here, I don't know. So we've reached a point with anime series when they're broadcast in America that they don't redo a theme song in English anymore. Like go back to like the original Dragon Ball Z theme song, the famous or infamous Rock the Dragon. You don't have that anymore. You've just they play the original Japanese theme song and people here love it. They eat it up. I personally love it. I don't know what I'm saying. I try to sing along. It's bad, but I love it. And they do that for each of these theme songs. Now, sometimes they will Americanize it, but honestly, like the purists out there just kind of stick with the original theme anyway. It reminds me, William's question and something you said about the Disney cartoons reminds me of an aside. It's not just Americans that anglicize or turn these into an English language. Like these theme songs are translated elsewhere too. So if you go back, if you look for the German Rescue Rangers, it's an amazing theme song because it's essentially the same thing, but they're referred to as Chip und Chap, and it's the cutest thing in the world. Chip und Chap. I love it so much. As far as MAJ, though, they're great songs. I can't remember them, but as soon as I hear them, it's just like, it's a good warm-up to get you into the show itself.
Yeah. It's very energizing. It's very fun. It rocks. Like and again, I have no idea what's being said or what the actual translation is either. I'm just enjoying the ride, and it's one of the few anime theme songs recently that I have not been skipping, that I've actually just been letting play, because I have that tendency where I've watched now close to the completion of Naruto Shippuden, and I am, every time the theme song comes on, and I've seen the same theme song over and over again, I'm scrubbing on my iPad just to get that minute and a half, that 90 seconds down the line to be like, just all right, let's start the action. Let's keep this going.
The Netflix model of skipping the intro.
Yeah, exactly. But I can't do that because for some reason I'm watching it on Verve and they don't have that ability to be able to just skip the theme song. So I'm doing it with my finger every time. But with this, I'll just let it play. Yeah. I enjoy this. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I like All American Rejects.
Maybe, or maybe it's just because we don't know what they're saying, so we're trying to like just play along. But at the same time, like these are like the theme songs and intros that I will actually go back to after having watched an arc. Same with Naruto. Go back to it because you will find things that make more sense.
Right.
Like you'll see two characters squaring off and kind of like passing in the night and then standing like back to back to each other. And you're just like, I kind of got a hint of that the first time I watched it, but now I 100% understand what that's about. And it's really cool to watch that in hindsight. So I don't know how long we've spent just talking about the theme songs, but the fact that they're so much better on pretty much every level than a lot of even modern American animated series. It's just like, this is one of my favorite things about watching anime, is intro sequences.
I agree.
It really is.
I want to say for the second theme song really quick. It's cool that it starts out as basically a yoga or a calisthenics class.
Yeah, oh my God, for the first 45 seconds, people just stretching. Everyone's just stretching and warming up.
But you see a little bit of a character progression because Deku seems a little bit more confident. He's still longing, but he's getting there. Like he's coming along.
So are all the classmates around him, right? Because they're all in the process of becoming heroes. So the first arc is kind of Deku gaining his powers from not having anything, learning to become a hero, and just starting to get kind of those incredible powers under some sort of control. And he's kind of accepted as at least a candidate to be in the same group with everybody else. Right. So that's like a big win for him. But then the second arc introduces a shit ton more characters, as if we didn't have enough already, and kind of pits them all against each other. But in the theme song, you get to see kind of like their uniform. So now they're all part of one group as far as all these kids together, which I thought was pretty cool.
Right.
But yeah, the calisthenics. I don't know why. For 45 seconds, we're just watching people warm up. The funniest one is probably Lita, or Ingenium, with his engine powered calves. Because it's just like the things like just like focuses on the back of his calves that have like 6 hot rod pipes coming.
It's a little bit of a body horror if you're not familiar with it.
It really is. There's a lot of things in this, and we'll talk about the characters here in a second, but there's a lot of. I kind of want to know your opinions on the design of some of these characters versus others. Some I think are absolute winners, and some are just like, what are you doing?
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else from the theme songs?
I'll just say the third one I thought was kind of cool. Just because you see some foreshadowing with somebody with somebody who comes into conflict with all these heroes called Stain. Yeah. And so you see a lot of stuff with him, which is nice because now having gone back after having watched everything and seeing the theme song again, I'm just like, oh, like we've said, you find and you discover little tidbits that you weren't aware of before, and it's fun too because this theme song has a female vocalist in it too, and it's very emo, almost to the point of like Stray Light Run, if that registers or resonates with anybody. Yeah, it's fun though. I actually think that I like the music in the third theme song more than I like some of the other ones. So,
yeah, and all of them have like hero shots of All Might, which is great. I mean, all the kids are featured, but he gets the ones where he's just like standing on a rooftop with the sun setting in the background and the wind is like blowing his cape out behind him. Like that's a standard hero shot.
Or it's like action poses where he's like jumping across a city and you just see him like in just like a crouched kind of like lunge position as he's just like zooming across the skyline, which is great.
It's just fun and great.
Oh man. So you want to get into some of this animation style?
Yeah, let's talk about that because this is where I kind of want to know what your thoughts are on I don't know, I guess some of the character design, because the backgrounds and stuff, they're fine. Like their cityscapes, their classrooms, it's pretty standard stuff. I mean, there's nothing that really stands out about that. It's really all focused on the characters, their abilities, and how they interact with each other.
Well, I will say the one addition is that when they're actually at school, they have a lot of these training facility or training areas where they're building these skills. They're learning teamwork and some of these more kind of basic concepts in terms of what it means to be a hero. Right. And those places, those areas and facilities where they have giant robots, or they have kind of like this dome that's in like the second arc that they have that there's a big battle and conflict within is
like mazes and
it is really cool to see. So it's fun to see that level of detail and sort of craziness that they cram into their university setting. Right. The additional part in terms of just animation style is, I mean, this feels like very modern, solid animation style that I think a lot of people will be comfortable and familiar with. I'll say that I kind of drew a parallel to, again, to One Piece. And the reason that I'm drawing that One Piece parallel is because of characters and colors. And in the same fashion where One Piece has all of these really distinct characters. In fact, when Alex Kazanis was on that episode with us, he's talking about the fact that everybody in town has like their own name, like they all have a backstory and a deal and something. I feel like every single character that is in this show is there for a reason. Like they all have a history, they all have some ambition or deal that they have to, that they're working through. And so to see all of that is really interesting. And then I think the costume design for the animation for this which Dave, you know, you were mentioning before. Like, there's some
Yeah.
characters that you're just like, whew, okay, you know. At the same time, though, I really love how kind of bizarre and crazy some of these characters get.
Absolutely.
And I'm drawing the parallel again to One Piece in terms of color, because there are a lot of really like bright primary colors for people, even who, you know, are kind of acting like a little bit of a badass in some cases. We have Kashan, who has a quirk which is explosion, and despite the fact that like he has literally grenades on his hand, like
Eventually, yeah.
yeah, as a part of his costume, like they're very green, and then there are all these like fun, really bright red accents, and so, you know, and the reason that I think that they did this is because, you know, you learn very quickly that Deku, you know, kind of idolizes All Might, and so these characters and these costumes that are created and built for them are meant to have that mass public appeal,
Right.
so that as people are watching their heroic efforts, as they're watching them save a city and rescue you know, somebody in distress, like this is meant to kind of help not only
Helps you
sell
stand
like
out.
yeah, it helps you stand out, but it's also because like you see Deku has all of this merchandise for All Might. Like
Yeah.
they're also, these are also cash grabs too. Like it's funny to kind of see how all of that plays in terms of, you know, the role and the process that they're going through, because, you know, when you meet Deku and you kind of see his costume for the first time, you're just like, well, okay.
Okay. He's kind of like a kick-ass ripoff, sort of.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just like a jumpsuit. Yeah.
he's got, and I think Kick-Ass is the perfect example for this. He looks like the guy from Kick-Ass, but then kind of with like a bunny mask,
Yeah.
sort of on front, which it doesn't really strike fear into the hearts of maybe villains, but
Not
it's
great for
but
marketing.
but I think it's an interesting choice that they make, because at some point, you know, we have these characters who are good, but they have a real badass side to them.
Yeah, but they also, some of them have really tough times breaking into that marketing, or dealing with the fame, or dealing with the constant kind of, you know,
Right.
press conferences they have to have, or spinning, you know, dealing with spin after the fact. This is where I kind of compare the story to something like One Punch Man.
Okay.
Right? So One Punch Man takes the angle of there's a governing body that ranks and sort of controls, in quotes, all the heroes. So you have to register, you have to test, and you have to place, so that the hero, the regulating body, can kind of rank you as a hero. It's less about the school aspect of it and more about kind of like a governmental control of it and regulation. Of course, that's just a completely off the wall in One Punch Man, because for reasons that would make sense if you watch One Punch Man.
Yeah.
In this, it's just sort of like the school has stepped in, and it's one of the weirdest schools. Like, if this was a real thing, it'd be a really strange school. It's almost like how Disney takes young talent and then just kind of puts them through the machine, right? So they're young kids, they're cranking out albums, they're appearing in live action Disney shows, they're appearing in movies. And then as they get older, they invariably, most of them just turn into complete train wrecks, because they've been through this marketing, entertainment, publicity machine. You got to be on all the time. You got to be in front of cameras all the time. You got to say the right things on social media. You got to look the right way. You've got to give the right message. It's just like, I'm waiting for these kids to start to fracture in My Hero.
Sure.
Yeah, because it's not enough that they have to control and hone their powers. They have to keep a level head. They have to maintain what it means to be a hero. They have to actually be a hero, so go out there and do the hero thing. And they have to then maintain kind of their publicity, their personality, and their fame.
That persona that they've
It's
been
crazy.
projecting. Yeah, it's insane. And I think that by the end of season 2, you kind of begin to see some of that fracture.
Just start to get that, yeah.
And so I'm kind of curious for season 3 how much more that is going to fracture for certain students.
What's interesting with that, and I know I'm like not even talking about animation style anymore, but it's like part of that comes in. Part of the animation style is sort of tongue in cheek, right? So they'll make a costume. There's 2 girls, and I apologize that I can't remember their powers or their names right now. But essentially, when they get paired up with their mentor, Hero, she's bigger than, like, literally. She turns into like a giant woman in like a skin tight suit. So she's always on the covers of magazines, and people are always kind of lusting after her. And she's always the topic of conversation on like late night talk shows and things like that. So she's not like the top ranked hero for doing heroic stuff, but she's always in the public spotlight. And she takes 2 of the younger students kind of under her wing, and she's kind of like, well, you gotta sell it. You gotta use a little sex appeal. You gotta put a little flair into your heroics, and like you're both powerful, but you have to learn how to use the media, how to spin things in your direction for positive gains, and also to stay in the spotlight. Like you can't just shrink back and stay in the shadows. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this? So it's an interesting kind of subplot that they have in there for some of that. Couple that in with father issues, family issues. There's heroes out there that they got their quirks inherited from one or both parents, and maybe they don't like one of those parents, so they only really use one quirk, and they make a choice not to use the other one unless they absolutely have to, because they don't want to give any ground or be in the, follow in the footsteps of another successful hero figure. So there's a lot going on, kind of aside from the regular heroes versus villains plot in this.
Right.
And that does tie into animation style, because it kind of, you see it in some of their, either the character design, sometimes they'll reflect the physical attributes of their parents or their idols or other heroes or maybe villains. And you'll see it in their costumes too. So sometimes the costumes reflect whoever they're trying to emulate.
I mean, even for for Katsuki, who is Kashan, the guy with the grenades on his hands, there are moments where there are single still frames where you can see that he's really angry.
He's so angry.
He's so angry, and they'll flash to that, and everybody else is kind of reacting, kind of walking away from him. But
he's a PR nightmare.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But his costume is the one that bugs me the most, probably.
Oh really?
I hate that giant bulgy grenade design. It just bugs me.
It's kind of weird.
It bugs me as much as the character design of the dude that just has flesh wings.
That's
I can't. I just can't with that. Or the dude that just has cellophane tape coming out of his elbows.
Yeah, his name, because I remember his name. His code name in this is it's a Hanta Sero, and he's a cellophane. He just shoots tape out of his elbows.
Out of his elbows. What are you doing? I like it for as wacky as it is, and how kind of tongue-in-cheek it is for the design. Actually, one of my favorites is Invisible Girl, because that's a hilarious thing to do in an animated series where all you have to do is animate the clothes and, sometimes the gloves. And she could literally be in every frame and you might not know it. I just love that. I love how much they play with her character.
Right.
Yeah.
Man. Well, we've talked a little bit about some of these characters. Yeah. So let's dig a little bit deeper into them. So
yeah, we're kind of tied in here with the design style. It's hard to talk about that versus the characters without talking about the characters.
They're so tightly coupled.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about Deku. Anything else that you can think about Deku?
Oh my God. I mean, his whole story, I guess we'll talk in the plot a little bit more, but as far as he's kind of the prototype underdog. Starts from the bottom, nothing but heart.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yep. Nothing but heart and will, right? He's that classic hero where he's just he's an everyman. He's less than an everyman because he's got nothing going for him, but just through sheer determination, can make it and achieve his dreams. And it's a classic iconic hero, which as I'm starting to get older and more cynical, I'm starting to hate more, because I feel like that made me hopeful and optimistic as a youth, and I'm mad about it. But it is still a great classic kind of iconic hero, where it doesn't matter if he gets liquefied or has all his bones broken, either by a villain or by his own accord, he will eventually come back from it stronger than before.
And
through no quirk of his own. That's just his thing. Yeah.
Haha, through no quirk of his own. Haha. I actually think that humility is the thing that makes Midoriya absolutely makes him an interesting character to watch, because he's been in this world where his sole desire has been to have a quirk, to have something of his own, and when everybody else is in that kind of very early puberty stage and they're developing these quirks, he does not have anything.
Right.
And he has finally gotten to the point where he accepts it, and then sort of we begin to see how he is willing to self-sacrifice for other people and what the rewards are that come as a result.
Yeah. He's essentially if you were in a Harry Potter universe, if you grew up idolizing famous witches and wizards, if you had magic in your family, and then you were, what do they call them now? They call them nomads in Fantastic Beasts, which I hate.
Muggles?
No, not just humans. So people who were born into magic families but don't have magic themselves. I want to say scrub, but that's not right. like what's his name? The caretaker, Filch, is
Yeah.
one of them. Because he's from a magical family, if I'm correct. God, if we have Harry Potter people listen to this and I get it wrong, they're going to crucify me. But essentially, born into magic families with no magic. It's the same kind of thing. You're born into a world where the quirks are like a normal thing. Like everybody has them, even if some of them are pretty useless. And that's all this kid wants, is to be part of that world. And then he's actually granted that. But he's granted these incredible powers, but using them would literally kill him. That's one of my favorite parts of this
Yeah.
story, where it's just like, imagine if you were like, okay, you're Superman now, but if you hug your brother, probably gonna kill him because you don't know how to control it yet. It's like that level of like, okay, now we really need to like fine tune this and like get you to not kill yourself and not kill people around you because you don't know how to use them.
And just so Harry Potter fans don't get pissed off at us, it's called a squib.
Squib, not a scrub, but so
Squib.
close.
Scrubs was a great TLC song, Dave. Let's just
It was.
keep those.
I thought you were gonna say a great TV show, but
No.
either one.
Both.
Another thing I like about Deku actually is he's kind of got like a Batman angle to him, because for the longest time he didn't have any quirks. He just researched and studied and followed every hero or villain that he could, and he wrote down everything he could think of. So he knew like where All Might, when All Might took down such and such villain, like he knew roughly their power levels and could like, he has stats on everybody, is what I'm trying to say. He's like that kid, probably like you and me, where you kept the power cards, the stat cards of X-Men heroes and stuff. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10 how, Professor X's intelligence compares to like Wolverine's or stuff like that. Deku's that kid. So he's got this knowledge base. So now that he's a hero and he's going up against some of these same people, that's an interesting benefit and bonus that he has on his side.
And in the second arc of the show, when he's in this kind of tournament combat fighting style, sort of like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, the second arc is all tournament arc.
Is very Dragon Ball-ish, which
I love.
Which was actually, I did enjoy this. Mm-hmm. And as a result, all of that knowledge and his development in terms of his quirk and his skill really comes into play and is great to watch.
Yeah. And what's interesting about him, well, I mean, there's a lot. There's a whole side story about his power, All Might's power, where that power came from. There's a whole kind of like lineage to it, which that's too deep into the weeds. But it's really fun to dig into.
I'll just say like the whole connection that he has to previous people was very Avatar, Last Airbender for me, which was awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
That was cool.
So Deku in the books. Great.
Deku done.
Anybody else specifically? I mean, we've talked about Kashan and we talked about how you don't like his character.
No, I like his character.
You don't like his costume.
Just giant grenades and like angry war paint on his face. It's just like, it's too much. It's too much for me.
But anything else about him as a character, or because we've got such a large, group, and we get a lot of exposure to some of these characters.
Honestly, for me, for Katsuki, he's interesting because he's the initial antagonist for Deku. Like, this show does a really good job of leveling up the antagonists as you go. Sometimes they hit them broadside with like something that's way beyond their limits and abilities, but I like that they're on the same level. It's kind of like, it's a bully and the kid that he picks on, but then the kid that he picks on has powers, but the kid who, the bully already had powers to begin with, so they kind of go head to head a little bit. Yeah. But their friendship, this is what's great about Naruto and Sasuke. Their friendship, as conflicted as it is, as contentious as it is, eventually proves out at the end of the day. It's not always pretty. It's ugly most of the time. But that's what really makes that partnership work well. What about you?
No, it was really rewarding to be able to watch that conflict between the two, and just sort of the jealous nature of Kashan, to sort of see him begin to have to process and internalize that maybe he's not the best.
Yeah.
Maybe he is.
Neither of them are, though, which is the funny thing. Like, there's other kids in this class that are like above them on different reasons, but it focuses on these two.
Right. So I can't think of anything else about Kashan. We've got such a large cast. Was there anybody, any other main character that really stood out to you?
I mean, you gotta love All Might. There's a reveal. I don't know if I want to talk about it or not, but there's a reveal, in case people haven't seen it, but there's a reveal that shows kind of a weakness that All Might has that might not be apparent, it shouldn't be apparent from the beginning, that his quirk is not exactly what it appears to be.
Right.
So there's something interesting going on with him that really adds extra layers to his character. It's a creepy kind of look and design, especially the first time you see it. but it's really interesting. That's
Yeah, I
all
mean
I'll say.
it's very pointy in terms of
Yeah.
the angles for not only like his hair but his face and his
Everything.
eyebrows. He has very small kind of beady eyes,
Yeah.
but
He's built of triangles.
just real like PlayStation 1 polygons just rendered into place.
But I have to say, of all the powers that they have, and here's the thing, like if you, again, we're Superman doesn't have any catchphrases. He just goes in and smashes shit up if he wants to. Imagine though that you're under the spotlight all the time and you have to like stay atop the heap as, number one. You've got to have catchphrases. You've got to have names for your moves. It's like a Mortal Kombat game. I absolutely loved the first time I heard him say, "Detroit to smash."
Detroit Smash
Killed me.
is his infamous punch that he has, which don't know why it's Detroit Smash.
But there's I think there's like a Texas Smash. It's all American,
It's all American.
cities or states. The big one is United States of Smash.
Right.
And when he did that one, that
Which is
absolutely
great.
floored me. It's like a combination of the most hilarious and ridiculous thing you've ever heard, but also like super cool to watch it actually happen on screen too. It's so much fun. He knows how to work the cameras.
Any other main characters that you can think?
Main characters, everybody's got some cool stuff. Lita is really interesting to watch because he's struggling with being a younger brother to a very popular hero. He struggles with some pretty dark stuff later on, and he's an interesting one to watch as far as his character arc goes. Everybody has their own little mini arcs. His is probably the one that kind of stood out to me as far as the supporting heroes. Yeah. How about you?
I mean, I actually really loved Todoroki, who has the quirk of fire and ice.
Yeah.
And his father is the second highest ranked hero called Endeavor, which just Endeavor. And he just really looks like a fireball put inside of like a fancy jumpsuit.
Yeah.
And it's
like
it's
we were
really,
talking earlier, he looks like if you put a tux on a volcano.
exactly.
He's essentially just that.
And that volcano was always constantly erupting.
Yes.
And it's a great design to see for his dad, but then Todoroki's backstory that he actually has two quirks, fire and ice.
Right.
And it's not a George R.R. Martin reference.
It's not.
It's
not a Ralph Bakshi reference either.
Exactly. And so it's wow, we got a lot of fire and ice going.
That's right.
So it's cool to see.
It's also not a Trojan condoms reference for those of you out there who rocked those back in the day.
Man, this is getting real after dark. So we have this fire and ice quirk, and that's the first time that we really learn that there are people who can potentially have two quirks at the same time.
Right.
And you realize that his father obviously is this erupting volcano, and his mother had the power of ice, and so their union allowed him to have and possess both. And there's an increasingly interesting backstory about him not using the fire portion of his body because he doesn't want to pay tribute. He doesn't want to, again, be in the shadows of his dad. Right. And so there's a really fun storyline that they have that goes through that just is kind of him understanding and possibly accepting the fact that he can use both of these complementary powers at once. And so I thought, to me, that was probably one of my favorite kind of supporting character B plots that we had that was through these first two seasons.
Definitely. And like we mentioned earlier, if we didn't mention your favorite, it's definitely a slight on you. And yes, we are choosing you specifically to leave them out.
Great.
Now, there's just so many characters.
But with that in mind, really very quickly, who was another character that you did not like?
Another one I didn't like?
Yeah, who was somebody that was into that you were just like, oof, they better have a real interesting thing going on.
And everybody eventually does have an interesting thing going on. I really like one of the teachers. His name is Best Genus. Amazing. Like the design on this character and the idea behind it is absolutely amazing. You need to look it up because I can't do it justice. But just imagine somebody draped literally like nose to toes in denim. Best Genus is amazing. And there's some really good cosplays out there too. I almost said podcasts. Some really good cosplays out there for Best Genus. As far as the ones I can't stand, it's probably Yuga Aoyama, whose hero name is I Cannot Stop Twinkling. I can't. Like, it's one of those things. There's always a character in anime that's just like so over the top and so ridiculous. I think it's one of the reasons I can't get into like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or some of the stuff that's on now, like Black Clover. There's just sometimes there's characters who are so irritating that I don't find them funny, and they actually drive me away from the stuff.
Okay.
I Cannot Stop Twinkling is probably one of those characters. They're funny, but I can only take them in small doses. How about you?
Interesting. I don't know that there's anybody that I hate necessarily, but I think the character that took the longest for me to warm up to was definitely what was it? Mineta, who is grape juice.
I don't even remember what. Oh,
he's the kid. He's the
perv.
the little perv.
Yeah.
And mainly just because he's trying to be sort of that fan service stand-in where he's really trying to be lewd all the time, and and like every time a woman walks out and stuff like that, just like him having the nosebleed and acknowledging it. And some of it's, again, very traditional anime that you would kind of expect some of this stuff, but then it takes him a little while to get to the point where he can start using these like super adhesive sticky balls that he creates and produces, and some of it's real weird. It's like and him kind of discovering it is bizarre, but it's I mean, it's
he gets
fun.
cool moments though.
He gets some cool moments, but
and
at the same time,
does,
it was like this real unnecessary perviness, But they're rounding out this class and they're giving everybody a deal, and so chances are, of course, yes, there's going to be a pervert at some time, and he fits that bill.
He fits that bill. What I do like about it is even if you don't really like the characters, everybody gets a moment to be heroic, even if it's for just like a part of a scene or part of a sequence, and everybody's powers has a weakness. So everybody has a limitation to their powers. Like there's a guy named Charge Bolt who he can absorb and emit electricity, but if he overuses it, his brain kind of shorts out and he just kind of like goes dumb for a little while. So it's like they're still kids. They're still learning how to use their stuff, but they can overdo it, which sometimes causes the adults to step in if things get too hairy.
I'm transitioning over to plot right now.
I think for this, since we didn't watch any specific episode for it, in the 3 arcs that we've seen so far, or 4 arcs, I guess you can say, or 2 seasons, what have been the sequences or major things that have stood out for you?
Glad that you asked.
I've got a couple in mind. Yeah,
you broke this down. I broke this down for myself into the following kind of bullet points, which I felt were helpful. Was that we really have sort of the hero's journey with Deku, and the passing of the torch from All Might. We have sort of the Kashan and Deku friends/rivals that they have between them. Then we have this entire idea of these villains assembling and sort of organizing between themselves, because they've all been sort of these separate factions that have been attacking and trying to do stuff, but they're just not organized. They haven't gotten their shit together.
Which is a nice commentary on most villains across time. Yeah.
We have again, then we have these like day in a life where we have these kids that are going to school and they're learning things, and they're consumed with like their day-to-day life and how that impacts sort of their own mental stability as they learn and kind of come to grips with all these things in the classroom and out in the training sessions. Then there's this whole idea that they have of sort of discovering these powers and like / puberty, where they're really kind of coming into their own. These things are developing. They're still very young kids. I keep thinking that they're like maybe like 14.
It's a younger skewing show than you'd think sometimes, but some of the stuff kind of veers into older territory, so it's really tough to kind of pin it down. Yeah.
And so they seem some of them, like Todoroki, seems like way mature for his age. But then Deku seems like he's sort of like, on this very young cusp of even being able to get into school, but he's still there trying to keep up with everybody else. So you have this whole discovery of powers and sort of the puberty that goes along with it. And I say the puberty aspect of it because there's like the weird love story that they have kind of between Deku and Uravity, who is a female lead character that we have that has the ability to be able to touch things, and she can change the gravity within those objects. And it's kind of interesting to see all of these things happen at once, because at no point do they just say like, we're just going to focus on this one thing. It's like these things are layered over top of each other. So usually there's always like 2 or 3 different pieces to this plot that are going on at any given time in the show. And so it always keeps things really interesting to watch.
And what's interesting about that is like, just as you're starting to get like a handle on all these different subplots that are going on,
my God,
they'll just like out of nowhere, it'll just be like, oh, all these villains just took over a mall. They're just like about to have a giant fight in a mall. Or like a villain will show up that I honestly think the villains have some better designs than the heroes. Because
Right.
the villains they do their own thing, but they also want to be like feared and remembered. So we've got probably my favorite design in the whole thing is and I don't have his name off the top of my head. The main one of the main antagonists who you're introduced to him with like a severed hand over his face and then just like appearing at like different parts on his body. It's a really weird design to look at, but it works so well to just be like, here's a creepy villain. It's amazing.
And it's Tomura Shigaraki.
Yeah, Shigaraki.
Shigaraki is
he's
this...
sort of like he's kind of starting to cobble these villains together over time, but he's not the main big bad. That you find that out later. There's someone above him who's kind of pulling the puppet strings and trying to get all these things together. But there's a lot going on the villain side. That's kind of been my only knock against the show so far, is that I haven't really seen enough yet as far as I don't know what these villains are trying to do yet. So I'm not 100% invested in what they're doing or even in the individuals themselves, except for someone like Stain, who very clearly was just out to be a hero killer for himself.
Sure.
Yeah.
I actually think that that's sort of some of the appeal for this is because in the same fashion that we have all these heroes assembled, organized, training,
right,
getting ready to understand the roles and responsibilities that they are going to have as heroes in the world, you have the complete opposite for the villains, but they're in that preliminary stage where they're trying to figure out how to involve people and
right,
how to kind of work together, and they're realizing that there is strength in numbers and that they can do this. And Shigaraki just is this reluctant leader. He does not really want this responsibility. He's not interested, and he's got a Kurogari.
Kurogiri, yeah, is like his sort of mentor. Yeah.
Right, who's sort of like this like shadow figure who kind of helps him out, that is always dressed like very, very pristinely.
Yeah. And he's just like a teleporting dude. Like he can just create warp gates essentially.
Yeah.
And people in and out of trouble.
And Shigaraki has this incredible power that anything that he touches, it can actually disintegrate.
Yeah.
And so like he can decompose and just get rid of anything. Whenever he puts all 5 of his fingers on something, that's it. Like you're done.
So it led me to believe or to wonder what is up with is it a costume or is it it got dark for me. I don't know. I still don't know the answer to this. Is it just something he put together to be creepy, or was it heroes who had tried to defeat him and then he just took hold of their arm and everything beyond their arm just disintegrated and he just left the hand there? It's so creepy, but it's such a cool look.
Yeah, I mean, I love the design for Shigaraki. It looks incredible. I mean, you can tell that he is so mentally pained and tortured by everything that he has to do. And I won't spoil it, but the moment that Shigaraki has with Deku at the end of the 2nd season, where they're in the mall,
yep,
and sort of him,
that's a great scene,
reaffirming his, I guess essentially mission, in terms of what he wants to do, is unbelievably creepy and disturbing.
But it's sort of at the same time, he's because heroes, paraphrasing, but because heroes like Deku and All Might exist, there needs to be villains to rise up to that same level, that same standard.
Right.
So they're kind of they're reaffirming their own mission to be the best possible villains that they possibly be.
And the entire time he's doing this, and he just, his for some reason his face looks kind of very dry, guys looking
worn and aged.
guys looking like he needs to really get some chapstick.
Yeah, just take that hand off your face. Yeah, just get some moisturizer.
Or put some Blistex on that hand when you put it over your face, bro.
Just smush it around.
Just smush it. And so they have all these moments where he's sitting there in a mall in a publicly crowded place, and he's just stroking Deku's neck, and he's like, the second I put all 5 of these fingers, you're done.
Yeah.
He's like, but don't freak out. Don't do anything. I'm not going to kill you yet. And you're just like, oh my God.
It's a tense scene. It's very much that becomes a thriller at that scene. Because it's these kids they've just come out of an ordeal. Everybody survived. Everybody's fine. But then they're oh, let's just relax, go to the mall, and get some shopping.
Let's be normal kids.
Kids.
Let's be kids for a couple minutes.
Yeah. And then this bro shows up.
And they have
everybody out.
They have no opportunity, and I think that that's what's fun about the end of the 2nd season, is the realization that if they thought that they could be that they could have a lighthearted moment anymore, that they thought that they could kind of regress and have like a childlike, innocent wandering in a public mall. It's like, no, you never get that. That is not your life anymore. And you and Deku specifically, you chose this.
Yeah, exactly.
And that decision is kind of what makes it even more
it
psychologically terrorizing, is that he wanted this.
Yeah.
Like, this to him was his life. That was his goal at the end of the day.
So he's a great villain. Another great villain they have out there, we already mentioned a couple times, Stain. I'll just mention his quirk because he's kind of a one-off. He kind of has his own arc that does his own thing, but then he's kind of gone. And we don't know really if he's going to be back or not, but his quirk is called Blood Curdle. And essentially, like, he has swords, he has blades that he carries. And if he can get a sample of your blood and ingest it, he can paralyze you. So your quirks, can't use them. You can't fight. You're paralyzed. So he's just out to kill heroes, essentially. So he uses this quirk to kill heroes. And yeah, it forces our heroes to kind of team up. It takes out some older heroes.
Yeah.
Unsuspectingly. So it's pretty interesting. They do a funny kind of thing where, like, different blood types, the paralysis rate only lasts so long for different blood types, and like Deku kind of gets to figure that out. But that's an interesting quirk. You essentially, like, just these are now just like kids. Like, you've taken their powers away, and essentially they're just kids now.
Right.
So he's going around killing kids.
Yeah, he's killing kids.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one too. There's so much going on though that, I mean, we only scratched the surface of it.
So any particular moments out of these 2 seasons that we've watched that kind of stood out to you? Anything that you're just like, if you're checking this out, and you're trying to understand, do I want to invest the time before season 3 comes out? What's like a scene that you need to watch?
For me, it's a montage scene between Deku and All Might, fairly early on in season 1.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Before we get into any of the school stuff, it's a classic montage scene. It jumps a lot of time, but it's super fun to just like watch Deku get to like start to learn these abilities, and you get a good sense of the relationship between him and All Might too. I would say that montage scene, probably the final 2 battles. I can't remember which people went out of the tournament in what order. I'd say like the final 2 battles of the tournament in that arc, and then probably the fight against Stain in the alley, and the appearance of Shigaraki at the mall, like you said.
Gotcha.
Those 4 things, like if you find them and like are like, not interested after watching those, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, I'd say seek those out if you just want like a taste, and definitely want to be spoiled without watching the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, the sequence that really stood out for me and kind of got me involved, like, I loved the montage.
Yeah.
And I loved everything going into this, but there's one battle scene that they have that goes on for like a couple episodes where all these kids are in a training facility that's locked down, and it's all of 1A students with their preceptor, who's a racerhead.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this moment where, as we mentioned, this villain that has this warp gate ability, they warp in all of these villains to fight against as a way to be able to draw out All Might.
Right.
What's so exciting about this isn't just the fact that now all of a sudden these young students, these class 1A students, have to, like, actually fight and defend for their lives.
Right.
It's not the fact that you have suddenly, towards the very end of the battle, you have all these other faculty members who are coming, and so you get to see some of these like really advanced, skilled people begin to fight. It's that you really have an opportunity to see All Might fight against this creation called Nomu. It's great to see the fact that you have this quirk, this one for all, used by our All Might hero, and he's really tested and pushed to the limit with this Nomu or Nobu character, who is just pummeling him. And you find out so much about this mindless kind of berserk villain later on down the road, but it's great to kind of see this titular character, something that Deku has revered his entire life and is now becoming, have that moment where he doesn't actually know if he is going to be able to be victorious. And so seeing again that little bit of faltering or possible doubt within that character is always interesting to check and see.
And it literally made it seem like some of those kids were going to straight up die. Because, like, as cool as it was to see all their powers on display and see them go head to head, like, as soon as these guys showed up, it was another couple of levels. It was something way above their pay grade. And it really put them in peril, which is something you don't expect to see. So, yeah, it was cool to see all the teachers come in at the end, but it was also cool to see the kids kind of stand their ground. It was kind of like, it reminded me of Naruto when they were in sort of like the forest training stage before the tournament. If you had all the villains kind of like bust in on that tournament and then just be like, oh shit, things about to go down, that would have been that level. But it took it up to another notch by doing it the way that they did. So that's all to say. I'm super excited for the next season of it. I don't know where they're going to go from here, but I know everybody's going to be watching it. So now's a great time to get on board.
Dave, before we get your opinion and your review on this.
Yeah.
Hey, let's guess what? Guess what?
Do we have to?
Yep, people out there that are listening. Turns out you guys have opinions as well.
Most of them are great.
And you post them online, and we call through them, and we turn it over each and every week to longtime listener and friend of the show, Bobby Anthem, for this week's Love It or Hate It. Bobby, take it away.
Our Love It this week comes from Monray Belaley on September 5th, 2017, who rated the show 10 out of 10 and titled the review a must-watch. It says, I never thought I'd like any anime as much as Dragon Ball and Naruto. After growing tired of waiting 1 week for a new Dragon Ball Super episode to be released, I decided to go on the hunt for any watchable anime to pass the time. Thank God someone in the YouTube comment section recommended My Hero Academia. At first, the storyline seemed out of place and slow, but as you watch more and more episodes, you become aware as to why exactly that was the case. It's about heroes, but not what you'd expect. The last time an anime left me in awe was when Goku first went SSJ. This anime left me in awe throughout. The animation, the character development, the plot twists, everything. Whether you're a fan of One Punch, Naruto, or Dragon Ball, you have to watch this. Trust me, you want to. And our Hated was given a rating of 1 out of 10 by Mundi on July 30th, 2017, in a post titled, Basically Zero Brain Effort Put Into This. It says, its story can be thought by a 6-year-old kid. Story progress so slow and characters are all mentally challenged. I know that it's for kids and always tries to teach some funny stuff, but it still is too obvious. Sometimes I wonder if the author is a kid as well. There is no way many people are behind this cringe-worthy crap. If you let your kid watch it, they will become stupider and nerdy too.
And amazing as always. Weirdly enough, Bobby's quirk is being able to read these reviews that people
great
put
quirk.
every week for us. It's phenomenal.
Killing it,
Bobby.
And he gets powered up from it too, which I think is pretty great.
Oh man, every time I hear powered up, I'm assuming it's just Super Saiyan. And again, I want an animated version of Bobby Anthem as a Super Saiyan. That's what I want.
We're working on it. And Bobby, if you're listening, and I know you are, your Pringles are on the way. They are coming from the UK, so I apologize for the delay. They're apparently a UK-only version of Pringle, so they should be arriving by the time you maybe hear this episode, hopefully.
Perfect.
Yeah. So what about you, bud? Do you recommend My Hero Academia?
Yeah, I absolutely recommend this. There's a lot of mystery and intrigue that they have not gotten a chance to get into yet, and they've set things up really well for season 3. Very excited to have this come out within 5 days to have a chance to watch this. And it's coming out on a Saturday. So guess what? You have no excuse not to watch this on a Saturday and get into the first 5 or 6 episodes that they're going to simulcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. And check them out the previous 2 seasons before. And then guess what? By the time you're done with season 3, the movie's going to be out. So
perfect.
There's no excuses. Join the party. Yeah. 100% recommend this too. It's super fun. It's something that I would have been like obsessed with if I was a kid, if I was younger. This was kind of like my DBZ if it came out during that time, I would have been 100% obsessed with it. And I would have known everybody's name, everybody's quirk, everybody's code name. I'm just old and I got other shit to do now. So unfortunately, I can't dedicate that level of obsession to it. But it is that good. So check it out. Hey, bud, what's going on with you over the next couple of weeks of Anime April?
Oh, man. Guys, as always, I do live improv comedy in Washington, D.C. with a group that is called Nox. That's Nox ! We perform with Washington Improv Theater. You can check it out, tickets and times, witdc.org. And I'm always on the TERS and the IGs. IG Wiz. Dave hates when I do this. At Sean Paul Ellis.
You can find me on Twitter at Dr. Claw MD. You can also find me on Collider.com, Nerdist.com, and DaveTrumbore.com. If you want to find out more about this little show right here, we would love it if you'd go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. If you sign up, you'll not only get newsletters that let you know what we're covering each and every month before we actually cover them, but you'll also get to support the podcast each and every week till we get to episode 365 and beyond. And remember, we're celebrating our 200th episode next week, so be sure to get your voice, whatever's in, for Animaniacs, and let us know what you think. You can also find us on Twitter at MorningTunes. Take a look at Sean's handiwork on the IG Wiz, I guess, Instagram page. Keep that conversation going on Facebook. And listen to our free audio podcast each and every week through YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. As always, if you don't want to call in through voicemail and let us know what's going on, drop us an email, SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. That's going to do it for this first episode of Anime April. We got a lot more shenanigans coming. So thanks for listening. Bye. Plus Ultra.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.